Hello, hello, good afternoon. Namaste. Hello, good afternoon.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon, who has joined. We'll just give it one more minute and then we'll begin. All right. Namaste and good afternoon, everyone. A very warm welcome to the India Summit 2025, hosted by Global Girls Glow. It's truly wonderful to see so many partners, educators, mentors, and young people joining us from across India and beyond. Before we begin, a quick reminder of our community expectations. Let's be kind, respectful, and encouraging so that everyone feels safe and heard today. And if anything makes you uncomfortable, please message us, the host and the co host, privately. For language support, you can choose your preferred translation option using the Wordly link that we are just popping up, and the QR code is also being displayed on your screen. We'll just give it a moment so that we're able to initiate that for everyone who needs translation support. You will see a pop-up on your screen on right side. Please open it and then choose your preferred language, and then you would be able to hear us in your preferred language. We have also dropped the Wordly link on our chat. So if it's not exactly popping up on your screen, you can also use it via chat and access it via chat. You can also see the QR code on the screen. If none of those work, please try scanning the QR code. That will for sure take you to the Wordly app pop-up, and so that you are able to take your preferred language and listen to the whole webinar in your preferred language. All right, while you do so, I would like to begin today's conversation, and it centers on a theme that sits at the heart of our work, integrating social emotional learning into comprehensive sexuality education for holistic adolescent development. Through this dialogue, we will explore how combining the knowledge and emotional skills helps girls not just learn, but lead with confidence. We'll have two panels today, one focused on stories, where you'll hear directly from girls about their journeys, and another on systems, where experts will discuss how policy and partnerships can help scale the SEL integrated in CSE approach across India. There's also a Q&A option, so please feel free to share your questions in the chat during both the panels. And as time allows, we will be able to take a few questions toward the end of the conversation. To open our summit today, I would like to invite Adrian Warren, Vice President of Programs at Global Girls Glow, to share the vision behind this gathering and what we hope to achieve together. Adrian is a global health enthusiast with over 15 years of experience in program leadership, administration, and development. At Global Girls Glow, she leads the design and implementation of initiatives that empower girls worldwide to thrive and lead with confidence. Adrian, over to you, please.
Thank you, Pallavi. Namaste and warm greetings to everyone joining us today. It's a joy and an honor to welcome you to this summit organized around the International Day of the Girl Child, which is a day devoted to listening to and learning from adolescent girls themselves. What makes today special is that it is girl-centered. So we will be focusing on girls, their stories, their insights, and their dreams. And our role is very simple. It is to listen, to uplift, and to walk alongside them. At Global Girls Glow, our mission is to mentor girls around the world to become confident leaders and powerful advocates. In India, we've partnered with 5 local organizations over the past 9 years, reaching more than 2,000 girls directly in rural and urban communities through our Glow Clubs, which provide consistent and supportive after-school programming. In these clubs, girls gather weekly in safe, mentor-facilitated spaces to build confidence, explore identity, and use their voices for change. One of our key initiatives, called Healthy Glow, combines social emotional learning with comprehensive sexual and reproductive health education, helping girls gain accurate health knowledge as well as the emotional resilience to use that knowledge with confidence and clarity. India is home to one of the largest adolescent populations in the world, and it's a generation with immense promise and potential. But across many communities, girls still face persistent challenges like early marriage, early pregnancy, and limited access to health education. Comprehensive Sexuality Education, or CSE, helps address these barriers by providing girls with age-appropriate, culturally relevant knowledge about their bodies, relationships, and rights. And it equips them with facts, but information alone isn't enough to transform lives. And that's why at Glow, we pair CSE with social emotional learning through our Healthy Glow initiative. And when these two approaches come together, girls don't just learn, they apply what they learn with confidence and clarity. SEL helps girls understand their emotions, communicate boundaries, resist pressure, and make decisions that reflect their values and goals. And the difference it makes is measurable and very personal. Between 2020 and 2021, we surveyed more than 1,700 participants in our Healthy Glow program. And the results were very clear. Girls didn't just gain health knowledge, they also gained confidence. They gained stronger boundaries as well as beliefs in their futures and their potentials. So today's summit celebrates the intersection of how SEL and CSE together create holistic adolescent development when girls are at the center. Throughout our time together, we'll hear directly from girls about how SEL and CSE have shaped their lives, explore promising practices from India and beyond, and envision systems that better support adolescent health and well-being. Thank you so much for being a part of this conversation today. And now it's my pleasure to pass the mic to the true leaders of our summit, which are the girls themselves, who will show us what SEL-rooted CSE looks like in action. So please join me in listening deeply and letting their words guide us forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Adrian, for setting such an inspiring tone. Now we move into our truly special segment, which is Girls Speak Out. This panel celebrates the voices of our young girls representing diverse communities and programs across India. Girls who have found courage to question, to lead, and to create change in their own contexts. Too often we see that girls' voices are spoken about rather than being heard directly. Today we have the absolute privilege of hearing from them in their own words, their ideas, and their lived experiences. And through their stories, we will see how comprehensive sexuality education, CSE, which gives young people knowledge about their bodies, relationships, and rights, and social emotional learning, which strengthens confidence, empathy, decision making, can really come together to help build agency and transform communities. Each of our speakers will share their story, followed by a short reflection connecting her experience to the broader theme of SEL and CSE. To start us off, we'll hear from Mercily, who shares how finding a space where her questions were welcomed set her on a path of growth and confidence. Let's listen to her. Mercily, over to you, please.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for asking me. Hi, everyone. My name is Paramiti. I'm 19 years old, and I come from
Mercily,
Batini
I'm
village.
sorry I'm interrupting you. Can you be a little louder? Can you talk? Yes. Thank you. Go ahead.
Hi, everyone. My name is Shalameti. I'm 19 years old, and I come from Batini village in Srikakulam, Andhra Pradesh. And I'm proud to be a global alumni. Growing up as a girl in my community meant living with a lot of restrictions. From the age of 8, I wasn't allowed to play freely, talk to boys, or even step outside alone. The hardest part for me was during the season. In my community, when a girl gets a period, she's seen as impure. We were told not to touch anything at home, not to go outside, and not to attend school for 7 days. We were given food separately, sometimes just curd rice and banana. No one explained what was happening with my body, not my school, not my family, not anyone. I grew up feeling confused, ashamed, and left out. I slowly began learning and growing in the aspects of life that were never discussed anywhere else. When I joined the Glow Club, for the first time, I found a safe space to ask questions openly and learn without fear. My mentor Srividya and other girls became my cycle of support. During World Mental Hygiene celebration in my village, I attended a session where I learned finally the truth that periods are natural, earth hygiene, and nutrition matter. And I realized all the restrictions which my family had put on me were harmful beliefs, not truth, but myths passed on from generations to generation.
Really sorry, I'm so sorry. I'm interrupting you. Your voice is really, really slow. Can you please remove your headphones and try? Maybe that would be better. Can you?
Now it is audible now.
Oh, it's much better. Much better.
Can you continue from first to continue now?
Yes, please go ahead. Can you start from the beginning? I think we don't want to miss your beautiful journey because of
Okay.
technical issues. Please go ahead. From the beginning.
Hi
You can
everyone.
start from the beginning.
My name is Shalametli. I'm 19 years old and I come from Vatili village in Srikakulam, Andhra Pradesh. And I'm proud to be a global alumni. Growing up as a girl in my community meant living with a lot of restrictions. From the age of 8, I wasn't allowed to play freely, talk to boys, or even step outside alone. The hardest part for me was during my period. In my community, when a girl gets her period, she's seen as insecure. We were told not to touch anything at home, not to go outside, and not even to attend school for 7 days. We were given food separately, sometimes just a curd rice and banana. No one explained what was happening with my body, not my school, not my friends, not anyone. I grew up feeling confused, ashamed, and left out. I slowly began learning and growing the aspects of life that were never discussed anywhere else. When I joined the Glow Club, for the first time, I found a safe space to ask questions openly and learn without fear. My mentor Srividya and other girls became my cycle of support. During World Menstrual Hygiene Day celebration in my village, I attended a session where I finally learned the truth that periods are natural with hygiene and nutrition methods. And I realized all the restrictions which my family had put on me were harmful beliefs, not truths, but myths passed down from generations to generations. I learned about reproductive health, my organs, and how menstruation works as a natural and healthy process. These chapters also exist in our biology textbook, but in school they were skipped or rushed through without detail. From then on, I stopped missing school during my periods and taking care of my health with confidence. I also engaged with my family to help them understand. At first, they resisted, but I kept explaining them again and again with patience and empathy. Slowly, they began to listen. Today, I no longer face those restrictions, and neither do my sisters or cousins. I also share what I learned with the correct information. Glow Club also taught me about boundaries, both physical and psychological boundaries. When a teacher misbehaved with girls in my school, I knew it was wrong. Since I learned about good and bad education, using the full of courage and communication we had practiced, I, along with my friends, reported him to the principal. He was suspended. That day, I felt more powerful, not just for myself, but for protecting others too. Workload also gave me strength in other parts of my life. After my 10th class, my family wanted me to take diploma course, but I wanted to study software engineering. Because of my self-confidence that I built through Glow Club, I was able to advocate for my own career choice. I engaged with my family, I explained my dreams, and eventually they agreed. Today, I am studying software engineering, something few girls in my village pursue. From being a shy girl who accepted the restrictions, I have grown into a confident young woman who can stand up for herself and create changes. Learning in the Glow Club about health and sexuality gave me the right information, and social emotional learning gave me the skills like self awareness, critical thinking, decision making, and boundary setting to apply that knowledge in my life. To every girl listening, your body is not shameful, your voice is not small, and your dreams are not impossible. Just believe in yourself and build a supportive friendship. If I could change my story, so can you? Thank
Thank you, Marcely. Thank you so much. Her story shows how learning the science behind menstruation became more than just information for her, it became freedom. And CSC gave her the clarity about her body, health, and social emotional learning helped her practice empathy, patience, and courage as she challenged the long held myths at home so that it changes for her own sister and for the cousin. Her journey reminds us how knowledge becomes agency and how agency, when paired with compassion, creates a ripple effect that begins with one girl and extends to her family and community. Thank you once again, Mostly, for sharing your story with us.
you.
Next, we'll hear from Rosa. Next, we'll hear from Rosa, who shares what it means to find your voice, especially when asking questions once felt difficult. Rosa, looking forward to hearing from you.
Thank you very much, Pallavi ma'am, for giving me the opportunity to share my journey with every one of you. I'm very glad, excited. मेरा नाम है रोजा रेड्डी, मैं भुवनेश्वर उड़ीसा से हूँ। एंड जब मैं अपने अर्ली टीनेज में थी, तो मुझे अपने आप पे बहुत सारे सवाल आते थे। मेरे पास अपने बॉडी और प्यूबर्टी के चेंजेस के बारे में बहुत सारे सवाल थे। पर उन्होंने मैं सब मतलब अपने अंदर ही एक छुपी हुई रास जैसी रख देती थी, क्योंकि मेरे को इस चीज़ को लेकर डर लगता था कि लोग मुझ पे हँसेंगे या फिर अ, वो सोचेंगे कि मैं उनसे बदतमीज़ी कर रही हूँ, अगर इन सब चीज़ों के बारे में मैं उन लोगों से डिस्कस करूँ तो। इवन मेरे वो जो क्लोज़ फ्रेंड्स थे या फिर फैमिली मेंबर्स थे, उन लोगों के साथ भी इन सब चीज़ों के बारे में डिस्कस करने पर मेरे को सवाल तो बहुत ज़्यादा थे एंड जवाब तो नहीं मिलते थे बिल्कुल। तो मैं ना इन सब चीज़ों के बारे में उन लोगों के साथ डिस्कस करना पूरी ही बंद कर दी। एंड मेरे को कभी-कभी ऐसा भी फ़ील होने लगता था कि मेरे फीलिंग्स को कोई ट्रूली समझने वाले है ही नहीं, एंड मेरे मन में जो भी सवाल है उसके आंसर यही नहीं, कहीं भी नहीं मिल सकते। एंड इसी चीज़ की वजह से मैंने जो भी सवाल अंदर आता था, मैं अपने अंदर ही रख देती थी डर के। एंड ये सब धीरे-धीरे करके चेंज होने लगा जब मैं जॉइन किया ग्लो क्लब में। एंड वहाँ सबसे बड़ी बेनिफिट मेरे को ये मिली थी कि वहाँ की जो मेंटर थी वो मेरी ही कम्युनिटी से थी। एंड उन्होंने भी वही सारे चैलेंजेस फेस कर रहे थे जो मैं कर रही थी। एंड तो उन पे ट्रस्ट करना काफ़ी ईज़ी था मेरे को। एंड उन्होंने एक ऐसी सेफ स्पेस क्रिएट कर दी ना, जो कि वो हर लड़की को देखा, समझा, और हम जिस चीज़ को लेकर ज़्यादा परेशान होते थे, उन्हें समझाने की या फिर सॉल्व करने की पूरी कोशिश लगाया करते थे। एंड उन्हीं सेशंस के थ्रू अब 2 साल से ज़्यादा हो रहे होंगे, मैंने प्यूबर्टी को समझना शुरू किया। तो वहाँ सिर्फ फिज़िकल चेंजेस ही नहीं बल्कि इमोशनल अप्स एंड डाउन्स भी। तो ये मुझे स्कूल में नहीं मिलता था, जहाँ सेंसिटिव टॉपिक्स को स्किप करा दिया जाता था, एंड घर पे भी तो नहीं मिलता था, जहाँ रिस्पेक्ट की मतलब सिर्फ साइलेंस समझा जाता था। तो ये सब हमें एक ट्रस्टेड एडल्ट के थ्रू से मिल सकती थी। जहाँ एंड मैंने भी वहीं से ये सब सीखा, लाइक सेल्फ अवेयरनेस, सेल्फ कॉन्फिडेंस बिल्ड करना, एंड अपने इमोशंस को कैसे कंट्रोल करें कम्युनिटी में, ये सब। एंड मैंने सबसे बड़ी चीज़ वहाँ ये सीखा कि मेरे फीलिंग्स वैलिड है, और अपने बॉडी के चेंजेस और एक्सपीरियंसेस जो है, उसके बारे में सवाल करना कभी रॉन्ग या गलत था ही नहीं। ये सिर्फ मेरा सोच था। एंड स्लोली मैंने अपने आप को चैलेंजेस हैंडल करने लायक भी देखना शुरू किया। तो पहले मैं उन क्विट एंड शाय या फिर इंट्रोवर्ट गर्ल्स में से थी, एंड खुद के लिए ये भी अनश्योर थी कि मेरा आवाज मैटर करती है या नहीं। लेकिन अपनी मेंटर और क्लब के मेंबर्स की एनकरेजमेंट जो थी, तो उनके थ्रू से मैं थोड़ा-थोड़ा मेरे अपने जर्नी के बारे में शेयर करना शुरू किया। एंड उसे मेरी कॉन्फिडेंस, कम्युनिकेशन स्किल्स दोनों ही बिल्ड हुई। एंड मुझे ये लगा कि मेरे थॉट्स की भी वैल्यू है, और उन्हें भी लोग सुनना चाहते हैं। जैसे कि हम ग्लो क्लब में एक्टिव लिसनिंग या एम्पैथी प्रैक्टिस टाइम पे सुना करते थे। एंड थोड़ा टाइम बाद मैंने ये कॉन्फिडेंस क्लब के बाहर भी कैरी करना शुरू किया, लाइक फ्रेंड्स, फैमिली मेंबर्स एंड इवन कम्युनिटी के लोग के साथ भी ओपनली बात करना शुरू किया। एंड यहाँ से मैंने डिसीजन मेकिंग स्किल्स सीखे, जैसे कब और कहाँ क्या बात करनी है। और पहले मैं जो दूसरी लड़कियों की स्ट्रगल सुनकर अपने आप पे ज्यादा हर्ष हो रही थी, वो भी छोड़ने लगी, एंड खुद पे सिंपैथी दिखाना छोड़ दी, एंड अपने आप को एक स्ट्रॉन्ग वुमेन सोचने की लायक हो गई थी। एंड पीछे मुड़कर देखा जाए तो मैं ग्लो क्लब ने सिर्फ मुझे नॉलेज ही नहीं बल्कि कॉन्फिडेंस, सिस्टरहुड और ये बिलीफ भी दिया कि मैंने अपने फ्यूचर के बारे में बड़े-बड़े सपने देख सकती हूँ। एंड मैंने ये भी सीखा कि अपने बारे में या फिर अपनी बॉडी के बारे में सवाल करना कभी गलत नहीं था, या फिर वीकनेस नहीं था, ये हमेशा के लिए एक स्ट्रेंथ था। एंड अगर आज मेरे स्टोरी जितने भी लोग सुन रहे हैं, मैं उन लोगों के सिर्फ यही बोलना चाहती हूँ कि हर लड़के के लिए आज ये बोलना चाहती हूँ कि अपने सवाल पे ट्रस्ट करो, अपने फीलिंग्स पर ट्रस्ट करो, एंड ऐसे एक जगह ढूँढो जहाँ अपनी आवाज़ की वैल्यू हो। एंड जब अपने आप पे आप मतलब बिलीव करते हो या फिर एक दूसरे को सपोर्ट करने लगते हो, तो तुम और भी स्ट्रांग हो जाती हो। थैंक यू मैम।
Thanks, Rosa. Thank you so much. Rosa's story beautifully captures how safe and trusted spaces can transform self doubt into self belief and confidence. Through CSE, she gained understanding about the changes in her body and emotions, while SEL helped her value her feelings, trust her curiosity, and express herself openly. Rosa's experience remind us when girls are given accurate information and emotional safety, they don't just find their voice, they begin to shape their own paths with confidence and purpose. Thank you once again, Rosa, for sharing your beautiful journey with us. Okay, adding to these powerful reflections, Zareen shares how courage and collaboration helped her and her peers challenge unsafe norms and take action for change in her community. Zareen, over to you.
Thank you, ma'am, for giving me that opportunity to speak you in front of you all. हेलो एवरीवन, मेरा नाम जरीन कुरैशी है। मैं लखनऊ के कटरा एरिया में रहती हूँ। अगर आप कभी भी वहाँ आए तो आपको पता होगा कि वो एरिया काफी फुल ऑफ लाइफ है, लेकिन काफी कंजेस्टेड भी। वहाँ पे लड़कियों के लिए बाहर निकलना कभी सेफ फील नहीं होता, क्योंकि हर कॉर्नर पे लड़के खड़े होते हैं। वो ईव टीजिंग करते हैं, कमेंट पास करते हैं, और वो ये चीजें ऐसे करते हैं जैसे ये सब नॉर्मल है। और जब हम आके घर पे बताते हैं तो हमारे घर वाले कहते हैं कि आप उन्हें इग्नोर करिए, आप सीधे चलते जाइए, उनके ऊपर ध्यान मत दीजिए। तो पहले मुझे लगता था कि शायद लड़कियों की लाइफ ऐसी होती है, हम उसमें कोई चेंज नहीं कर सकते। लेकिन सिर्फ तब तक जब तक मैं ग्लो क्लब से नहीं जुड़ी। ग्लो क्लब से जुड़ने के बाद मुझे बदलाव महसूस होना शुरू हुआ, क्योंकि मुझे पहली बार एक ऐसी जगह मिली जहाँ पे लड़कियों की वॉइस की वैल्यू थी। हमें वहाँ पे कभी रोका नहीं गया कि आप चुप रहिए, हमें इनकरेज किया गया कि आप क्वेश्चन करिए, अपने प्रॉब्लम्स की सोल्यूशन ढूंढिए, और लोगों को लीड करिए। जो मेरा सबसे पहला टेस्ट था वो एक मोहल्ला मीटिंग थी। उसमें मुझे मेरे कम्युनिटी के एल्डर्स के साथ में गर्ल्स एजुकेशन और हाइजीन पर बात करना था। तो उस वक्त मैं बहुत डरी हुई थी, मेरे हाथ पैर कांप रहे थे। और तब मुझे मेरे मेंटर की कही एक बात याद आई, योर वॉइस इज योर स्ट्रेंथ। उस दिन मैंने अपनी आवाज को दबाया नहीं, मैंने उसे यूज किया। और सरप्राइज ये था कि लोग मेरे ऊपर हंसे नहीं, उन्होंने मेरी बात को ध्यान से सुना और उसे समझा। इससे मेरा सेल्फ बिलीव और सेल्फ कॉन्फिडेंस दोनों बढ़ा। उसके बाद हमने और मेरे कम्युनिटी के मेरे क्लब के जो मेंबर्स थे, हम सब लोगों ने मिलकर के अपनी कम्युनिटी के सेफ और अनसेफ प्लेसेस की मैपिंग की, जिसमें हमने ईव टीजिंग वाले इशू को बार बार उठाया। और हम लोगों के पास जाते थे, उनसे कहते थे, तो स्टार्टिंग में लोग कह देते थे बॉयज विल बी बॉयज, उनका कुछ नहीं किया जा सकता। लेकिन हमने गिव अप नहीं किया, हम लगे रहे। और जो उसका रिजल्ट था वो ये निकला कि आज हमारी कम्युनिटी में जहाँ पे हैरेसमेंट होता था और ईव टीजिंग होती थी वो बहुत कम हो गया। तो अब हम लोग पहले से ज्यादा सेफ और सिक्योर फील करते हैं जब हम बाहर निकलते हैं। और उसके बाद मेरी कम्युनिटी में गर्ल्स एजुकेशन भी एक बहुत बड़ा मुद्दा था, क्योंकि पेरेंट्स को ऐसा लगता था कि लड़कियों की एजुकेशन मायने नहीं रखती, उसका कोई मतलब नहीं है। तो जब मैंने ये सुना तो मुझे काफी बुरा लगा। मैं उन पेरेंट्स के पास गई जिनकी बेटियां ड्रॉप आउट थी। मैंने उन्हें बताया कि एक लड़की की जिंदगी में एजुकेशन और फाइनेंशियल इंडिपेंडेंट होना कितना जरूरी है। जब वो कन्विंस हुए तब मैंने उनकी पेपर वर्क में हेल्प की, और आज पहले से बहुत सारी लड़कियां फिर से स्कूल जा रही हैं। ये मुझे कम्युनिटी कम्युनिकेशन और एम्पैथी की पावर दिखाता है, जो मैंने ग्लो क्लब से सीखा। उसके बाद हमारी कम्युनिटी में एक हेल्थ और हाइजीन भी बहुत बड़ा इशू था, क्योंकि ये एक ऐसा इशू था जो डायरेक्टली हमारी हेल्थ पे इफेक्ट कर रहा है। जैसे कि हमें डेंगू और मलेरिया मेरी कम्युनिटी में बहुत कॉमन था। तो हम आशा के पास गए, आंगनवाड़ी वर्कर्स के पास गए, हमने उनसे बात करी और उनके साथ में रैलीज की, पोस्टर्स मेकिंग करी, और लोगों के घर गए, उन्हें समझाया कि ये कितना बड़ा इशू है। और जब वो धीरे धीरे उन लोगों ने रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज लेनी शुरू की, और आज हमारी कम्युनिटी पहले से ज्यादा सेफ और हेल्थियर फील करती है। पीछे मुड़कर देखती हूँ तो ग्लो क्लब ने सिर्फ मुझे करेज ही नहीं दिया, उसने मुझे एसईएल स्किल्स दी, बोलने का कॉन्फिडेंस दिया, अपनी कम्युनिटी से एम्पैथी और कम्युनिकेशन के साथ जुड़ने के लिए एक मौका मिला, डिसीजन मेकिंग अपॉर्चुनिटीज लेने का मौका मिला। और मैं एक ऐसी लड़की थी जो चुप्पी से बंधी थी, बहुत अकेले में रहना पसंद करती थी। वहां से आज एक ऐसी लड़की बन गई जो लोगों के सामने खड़ी होती है और चेंज की डिमांड करती है। इसके लिए थैंक यू। और जो मेरा आखिरी मैसेज है, जो भी ये सुन रहा है उसके लिए, आपकी आवाज आपके फेयर को करेज में तब बदल देती है जब आप उसे यूज करते हैं, और आपके छोटे से स्टेप्स को एक रियल चेंज में। थैंक यू।
थैंक यू जरीन, वेरी राइटली सेड। हमारी आवाज हमारे फियर से ऊपर होती है और वो उसे चैलेंज कर सकती है। थैंक यू सो मच। जरीन स्टोरी shows how community transformation looks like when one voice becomes many. And through CSE, she understood her rights and well being about herself as well as for her community. And while SEL strengthened her teamwork, communication, and resilience to turn that understanding into collective voice and action. From addressing harassment or eve teasing to helping girls return to school, Zareen's journey shows us how power grows when girls act together, moving from power within to power with, which is to creating safer, stronger communities in the process. Thank you so much, Zareen, for sharing your story. Continuing this conversation, we have Shalu representing the Restless Development, who shares how she navigated expectations and limits placed on girls in her community and what it looks like to carve her own path forward. Shalu, looking forward to listening your story.
थैंक यू फॉर ऑल माय नेम इज़ शालू और मैं 19 साल की हूँ। मैं दक्षिणपुरी में रहती हूँ जो कि एक अर्बन स्लम एरिया है। मैं अपनी कम्युनिटी की बात कहूँ तो यहाँ पर लड़कियों के लिए एक रिस्ट्रिक्शन लगाई जाती हैं, पाबंदियाँ होती हैं, वो भी लिमिटेड होती हैं। जैसे कि लड़कियों को बाहर जाने के लिए रोका जाता है, उनके पहनावे के लिए बोला जाता है और भी बहुत सारी चीज़ों को वो फेस करती हैं। दूसरी ओर देखा जाए तो लड़कों के लिए भी बहुत सारी पाबंदियाँ होती हैं। लड़कों के लिए भी बोला जाता है कि वो लड़के हैं, वो रो नहीं सकते हैं, उनके ऊपर ज़िम्मेदारियाँ हैं, वो सिर्फ जॉब कर सकते हैं। लड़कियों के साथ वो घर गृहस्थी नहीं संभाल सकते हैं और लड़कियों से ज़्यादा लड़कों को पढ़ाई का हक है। ये सब चीज़ें भी वो फेस करते हैं। सबसे ज़्यादा कम्युनिटी में फेस करने को मिलता है फ्रीडम एंड रिलेशनशिप। फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल मैं अपने पर्सनल एक्सपीरियंस बताऊँ तो रिलेशनशिप को लेके मेरी फैमिली भी एग्री नहीं होती है। वो अगर कम्युनिटी और फैमिली के हिसाब से देखा जाए तो रिलेशनशिप सुनते ही उनके थॉट में ये आता है कि ये बिगड़ी हुई लड़की है, ये भाग जाएगी या इसका किसी के साथ अफेयर चल रहा है। ऐसे बहुत सारी चीज़ें उनके दिमाग में आने लगती हैं जिसके लिए उनके दिमाग में ये सब आते ही लोग डिमोटिवेट हो जाते हैं। उनको ये नहीं लगता कि मेरी बेटी है तो वो एक अपने लिए सही डिसीज़न ले रही है। दूसरी ओर देखा जाए तो लड़के के लिए भी लड़की अगर सोचे कि हाँ ये मेरा दोस्त है, पर उसको दुनिया गलत नज़र से देखती है, हमारी कम्युनिटी, कि ये तो दोस्त नहीं, इनका कुछ और ही चल रहा है, ये रिलेशनशिप में भी हो सकते हैं, क्या पता है इनका फ्यूचर क्या हो, क्या पता ये भाग जाए। ये सब चीज़ें कम्युनिटी में बहुत सारी देखने को मिलती है। एजुकेशन को लेके भी बोला जाता है कि ये लड़की है, ये 12वीं तक ही पढ़ सकती है या 10वीं तक, इसकी यहीं तक एजुकेशन पूरी है, इसको तो आगे घर गृहस्थी संभालनी है। और दूसरी ओर देखा जाए लड़कों को और लड़कियों को रखा जाए दोनों को इक्वल, तो फर्स्ट प्रायोरिटी हमारे लड़के ही होते हैं। तो इस चीज़ को लेकर मैं बहुत डिमोटिवेट हो जाती थी। मेरे अंदर एक आता था कि एजुकेशन को लेके मेरे अंदर क्यों नहीं ये सब चीज़ें हैं, मैं क्यों नहीं पढ़ सकती हूँ, मेरा क्यों नहीं राइट्स है, लड़कों के मुकाबले लड़कियों के मुकाबले ये भेदभाव क्यों आ रहा है मेरी कम्युनिटी में। मेरी मैम ने मुझे एक दिन मोटिवेट किया। उन्होंने कहा कि आप अगर मेहनत करोगी तो ये सारी अपॉर्चुनिटी जो हमारे स्कूल में लड़कियों को मिल रही है वो आपको भी मिल सकती है। अगर आप मेहनत करोगे तो आप भी आगे बढ़ सकती हो। वो चीज़ मेरे को बहुत एनकरेज करी है। मैंने उस चीज़ को बहुत अच्छे से लिया, जो कि आज मैं रेसलेस डेवलपमेंट से जुड़ी हूँ, जिसने मुझे बहुत SEL के सोशल लर्निंग स्किल दी है, इमोशनल स्किल, जिससे कि आज मैं कम्युनिटी में बोल पा रही हूँ, मेरी पब्लिक स्पीकिंग अच्छी है, आज मैं लोगों को एंगेज कर पा रही हूँ, जिसकी वजह से मैं लोगों के ज़िंदगी में बदलाव ला पा रही हूँ। मैंने अपनी लाइफ में एक बदलाव किया है, वो भी एक लड़की के लिए, जो कि उनके फैमिली वालों ने उनको पढ़ने के लिए रोक दिया था। वो उस लड़की की 10वीं तक ही पढ़ाई पूरी करनी थी कि बस आप यहीं तक पढ़ी हो, आपको आगे एजुकेशन की ज़रूरत नहीं, क्योंकि आप इसके बाद शादी करोगी। फिर मैंने उस लड़की को समझाया कि नहीं, तुम 10वीं तक ही क्यों पढ़ाई करोगी, तुम्हारी आगे पूरी फ्यूचर है, तुम्हारा पूरा लाइफ है आगे। तुम 10वीं तक पढ़ के अगर बाय चांस तुम्हारी शादी हो गई, तुम्हारे हस्बैंड ने तुम्हें घर से बाहर निकाल दिया, तो तुम किसके भरोसे रहोगी? अगर तुम पढ़ लिख के कुछ बन जाओगी, अपने पैरों पे खड़ी रहोगी, तो आप अपने माँ बाप का नाम रोशन ही नहीं, अपना भी करोगे। इस चीज़ को उन्होंने बहुत अच्छी तरीके से अपने फ्यूचर में, अपने लाइफ में चेंज लाई हैं कि वो आज अपने फैमिली के अगेंस्ट खड़ी हैं, पर वो अपने लिए खड़ी हैं। तो आज वो इतने अच्छे अंक से वो पास हुई हैं, अपना बीए पूरा कर रही हैं। तो ये एक मेरे लिए बहुत अपॉर्चुनिटी है कि मैंने किसी की ज़िंदगी बदली है, मेरी वजह से किसी की लाइफ में चेंजेस आए हैं। तो ये चीज़ मेरे लिए बहुत अच्छी है कि एक लड़कों को ही पढ़ने का हक नहीं है, लड़की को भी बराबरी का हक है। तो ये चीज़ मेरे लिए बहुत अच्छी हुई है कि रेसलिंग डेवलपमेंट से जुड़ के तो मैं इतना कुछ कर पा रही हूँ, जो कि मैं अपने टीम मेंबर से बोल नहीं पाती थी, अपनी कम्युनिटी में मैं अपने अगेंस्ट आवाज़ नहीं उठा पाती थी। आज मैं अपने घर में भी अपनी चीज़ों के लिए आवाज़ उठा पा रही हूँ। कम्युनिटी में जाती हूँ तो मैं उनको एक एंगेजमेंट का सहारा देती हूँ कि आओ, मतलब हम कैसे एंगेज कर पाएँगे, आपके लिए क्या सही है, क्या गलत है, आज मैं बोल पा रही हूँ। तो ये सब मेरे ही स्किल की वजह से है। और मैं एक लाइन बोलना चाहूँगी कि मंजिल है दूर पर आगे बढ़ना है, अपने हक अपनी खुशी के लिए समाज से लड़ना है। अब चुप नहीं बैठूँगी मैं अपने सपनों के लिए, क्योंकि तितली बन मुझे आसमान में उड़ना है। थैंक यू।
Thank you, Shalu. Thank you for that powerful ending to your story. Yes, तितली बन के जरूर उड़ना है और आप लोग उड़ रहे हैं. So thank you for sharing your inspiring journey. Um, Your journey speaks to the importance of determination, while comprehensive sexuality education gave you the awareness of your rights and the language to speak about fairness and equality. Social emotional learning strengthened your voice and persistence to act on that belief, to advocate for your own education, as well as to support other girls in your community in doing so. Thank you, and I hope you continue on your journey in doing so. Okay, before we close off, we'll invite Sanjana to add to this powerful round of stories. We have Sanjana from the YP Foundation as a young change maker from Delhi, whose journey reflects how self awareness and courage can create spaces where girls feel safe to speak, learn, and dream freely.
हेलो,
Sanjana, over to you,
नमस्ते।
please.
थैंक यू मुझे स्टेज पे बुलाने के लिए। एक्चुअली ना हमारे जो जिस डिवाइस से मैं कनेक्ट की था वो स्विच ऑफ हो गया है, क्योंकि लाइट नहीं थी, इस वजह से। तो मैं मोबाइल से कनेक्ट थी, इसलिए मुझे बोल रही हूँ मैं। नमस्ते, हेलो। मेरा नाम संजना है, मैं 16 साल की हूँ। मैं उत्तर प्रदेश के इटावे जिले से हूँ। कुछ सालों से मैं दिल्ली कापसेड़ा गांव में रह रही हूँ। मेरी उम्र से बड़े मेरे सपने हैं। और कापसेड़ा एक ऐसा गांव है जहाँ हर गली किसी न किसी प्रवाद और संघर्ष से लड़ रहे हैं। मेरे पापा प्रिंटिंग प्रेस का काम करते हैं, मेरी मम्मी डोमेस्टिक वर्कर है। सुबह जल्दी उठना, स्कूल जाना, मम्मी की मदद करना, वही बस यही था मेरा दिनचर्या। मगर इन सब के बीच मेरे अंदर एक सवाल हमेशा उठता था, क्या मेरी जिंदगी बस इतने तक है? क्योंकि मैं देखती थी लड़कियां कैसे स्कूल छोड़ देती हैं, मतलब बीच बीच में घर वालों की और समाज की ऐसी दीवार खड़ी हो जाती है जो उनके सपनों को पूरा नहीं होने देती है। तो मुझे ऐसा लगता था कि किसी ना किसी को तो बोलना पड़ेगा, तो कोई ना कोई तो वो आवाज उठाएगा अपनी। तो मैं मुझे अपने आसपास काम कर रहे एक एनजीओ आईवीआरसी के बारे में पता चला। मैं वहां गई, वहां से मैंने वाईटी ज्वाइन की। पहले तो झिझक होती थी कि वहां जाना ठीक रहेगा, मगर कुछ तो था जो बोल रहा था, संजना ये सिर्फ तेरे लिए है। तो मैं वहां गई। पहली बार मैंने अपनी आवाज के लिए सुना कि मेरी आवाज बहुत अच्छी है और मैं सबके लिए एक मिसाल बनूंगी। पहले मैंने अपने शरीर के बारे में जाना। मेरे शरीर मेरी ताकत है, शर्म नहीं। मैं बैठकों में बोलने लगी, दूसरों को सिखाने लगी। और कई बार मुझे ऐसा लगता था कि लोग मुझे बोल रहे हैं तो ये चीज मेरी गलत है,
छोटे कहते थे छोटी है, ये हमें क्या सिखाएगी, है ये बाहर क्यों जाती है, इतना क्यों बोलती है ये इतना फालतू। तो मुझे ऐसा लगता था कि लोग बोलते हैं तो दिल ऐसा लगता था टूट गया। फिर मेरी मम्मी मुझे हिम्मत देती थी कि मेरी बेटी कर सकती है, तो मुझे ऐसा लगता था मैं कर सकती हूँ। उनकी हिम्मत ना, मतलब हिम्मत आ जाती थी मेरे अंदर। मैंने अपने घर वालों का नजरिया बदल दिया खुद के लिए। मेरे पापा कहते अब मेरे पापा गर्व से कहते हैं मेरी बेटी काम कर रही है, वो दूसरे के लिए एक मिसाल है। तो मेरे लिए सबसे अच्छा इनाम यही है कि मैंने अपने घर में बदलाव किया है। अब मैं लोगों के लिए लड़ती हूँ, उनसे बातें करती हूँ, उनके सपनों को लेकर चलती हूँ, दूसरे से बातें करके उनकी बातें सुनती हूँ, उनके बारे में जानती हूँ। अब मैं अपने बहन भाई और मतलब लड़कियों के साथ काम कर रही हूँ। मैं उनके साथ एक हेल्दी और सेफ स्पेस बनाने की कोशिश कर रही हूँ, जहाँ वो आए, हंस पाए, खुलकर बोल पाए, अपनी बातों को रख पाए, और वो जो नहीं कर सकती वो कर पाए। तो मैं उनसे मिलती हूँ, उनसे बातें करती हूँ, उनकी बातें सुनती हूँ, तो ये मेरे लिए बहुत अच्छी बात है। और अभी मैं कम्युनिटी में जाती हूँ, उनसे बातें करती हूँ, वहाँ मिलती हूँ, लोगों से बोलती हूँ, तो बहुत अच्छा लगता है मुझे। और मैं अपने सपनों को हमेशा आगे रखती हूँ, लोगों की भी सुनती हूँ। अभी मैं एक लीडरशिप पे काम कर रही हूँ। लीडर वो नहीं है जो लोगों के लिए, मतलब लोगों के आगे खड़ा हो। लीडर वो है जो पूरी, मतलब टीम को साथ लेकर चले। तो ये बहुत अच्छी बात है कि टीम को साथ लेकर चलना एक अच्छी लीडरशिप का पार्ट है। और आगे चलकर मैं ये और अच्छा करूंगी। और मैं एक वकील बनना चाहती हूँ। और बल्कि मैं चाहती हूँ कि जिस लड़की का जो भी सपना है वो अपने सपने के लिए लड़ना सीखे। अगर वो लड़की अपने लिए नहीं लड़ेगी, तो मैं उन सब लड़कियों से यही कहूंगी कि अपने लिए जब तक आप नहीं बोलोगी, लोग आपको कुछ नहीं समझेंगे। अपने लिए बोलना सीखिए। और मैं अब उन सब लड़कियों के लिए बोलती हूँ जो नहीं बोल सकती। और इसमें मुझे बहुत अच्छा लगता है। मैं एक ऐसी कम्युनिटी से आती हूँ जहाँ लोग, मतलब गली गली में ऐसे कह देते हैं कि कैसे चल रही है, इसको चलने का ढंग नहीं है, ये कितनी पतली है, मतलब बॉडी शेमिंग, हर चीज में टोका टाकी सब बोलते रहते हैं। और मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि मैंने बहुत चीजें सीखी हैं। कॉन्फिडेंस मेरे अंदर आया है कि मैं अभी बोल रही हूँ, ये भी मेरे अंदर बहुत अच्छा कॉन्फिडेंस है। और मैं सहमति के बारे में सीखी हूँ। रिश्ते, परिवार, परिवार वो नहीं है जिसके साथ हम रह रहे हैं, सिर्फ वही परिवार नहीं है, हम खुद का परिवार खुद भी चुन सकते हैं। स्वस्थ रिश्ते, अस्वस्थ रिश्ते, प्यार, जो आजकल लोग बोलते हैं ये गलत है, बस वो उस व्यक्ति पर डिपेंड करता है कि वो क्या कर रहा है। और मुझे बहुत अच्छा लगा आप लोगों से मिलकर। मैं एक लाइन बोलूंगी, बेटी हूँ मैं, बेटी हूँ मैं, तारा बनूंगी, तारा बनूंगी, उजियारा बनूंगी। थैंक यू।
थैंक यू संजना। आपको देख के मुझे ऐसा वो याद आया है जो आपने अभी शेयर किया, उससे मुझे लग रहा है ऐसा बोलते हैं ना हिंदी में छोटा पैकेट बड़ा धमाका। सो संजना, यू आर लुकिंग लाइक अ छोटा पैकेट बड़ा धमाका टू मी। Thank you for sharing your beautiful journey. Your journey beautifully captures how understanding becomes strength and strength becomes leadership. And you are already on your way to acting on that leadership. So through CSE, she learned how to see her body and her voice as powerful. And through social emotional learning, she built the confidence to lead with others, not just for herself. Her journey reminds us that true leadership begins with one girl's courage and ignites confidence is in many. Thank you so much, Sanjana, once again. Thank you to all our speakers, Mercily, Rosa, Zareen, Sanjana, Shalu, for sharing your experiences and perspectives with us today. Your stories clearly show that when girls have knowledge through comprehensive sexuality education and skills through social emotional learning, they gain the confidence to make choices and take action in their own lives and communities. At Global Girls Glow, this is what we mean by building agency, voice, and power. the ability to make informed decisions, express oneself, and work together towards more equitable communities. What we have heard today are examples of change that begin with one girl and extends outward, creating a ripple effect of confidence and leadership. With that, we'll move into our next conversation, one that builds on what we have heard today, exploring how policy, partnerships, and programming can really strengthen and scale this approach across India. It is my pleasure to hand over to my colleague Ria, who will moderate our next session, the Strategies and Policies Insight panel. Ria, over to you, please.
Thank you so much, Pallavi, and a big round of applause for our incredible girls panel. Those stories were so powerful. They reminded us exactly why we are all here. Because when girls are given the space to understand themselves, their emotions, their relationships, and their choices, it changes everything. I am Ria from Global Girls Glow, where I lead global advocacy, and it's such a privilege to moderate this next conversation, strategies and policy insights. In this next session, we are moving from stories to systems. We'll look at what it takes to actually embed social emotional learning with comprehensive sexuality education, not as one off idea, but as something that's built into how schools, communities, and health programs work every day. We have got a fantastic set of panelists with us, people who bring rich experience from policy, philanthropy, community work, and on ground programs to explore what it will really take to move from good ideas to real lasting system change. I'll introduce each of them as we move our conversation in four parts: policy, community, funding, programs, to see how all these pieces connect to build a stronger and more holistic approach to adolescent well being. To start us off, I'm delighted to welcome Dr. Ajay Khera, Country Representative at Engender Health. Dr. Khera needs no introduction. All of us here know him for his long standing leadership of over 25 years in public health. He's worked with the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, leading national programs on maternal, child, immunization, and gender mainstreaming, and pioneering the adolescent health program in India. He's also played a key role in policy development and implementation through the National AIDS Control Organization and the National Health Mission. Dr. Khera, drawing from your rich experience, how is social emotional learning currently being integrated within government adolescent health initiatives such as the School Health Program and the Rashtriya Kishore Swasth कार्यक्रम? Also, what opportunities and challenges do you see, and how might partnerships between government, civil society, and school help make SEL a consistent and meaningful part of adolescent program or adolescent health programming across India?
Yeah, hello everyone, and thank you, Ria. Thank you very much for giving such a long introduction. And first of all, I'll like to take this opportunity of thanking the Global Girl Glow for organizing such a interesting, kind of a session during this India Summit. And I'm also really thrilled with the just now the young girls, spoke about their experience. This was really an eye opener, and I must congratulate the complete team for such a interesting, conversation. So, as per the question you raised about the from the policy perspective, what is being done in the context of adolescent, health, or we say adolescent development in general? There are a number of programs by the government of India, and one of the program, as you just now mentioned, which is called as the Rashtriya Kishore Swasth कार्यक्रम, and then another program which has recently been launched, that is a school health program, which is also called as the Health and Wellness Ambassador Program. And then beside that, there are efforts by other, the departments like, Adolescent Education Program, And then there are also, efforts by the Ministry of Women and Child. But if you look at, all these programs, the so-called the component of, social and emotional learning is a part of the comprehensive sexuality education, or it is also broadly a part of the SRH kind of intervention. But these most of those programs, they are a health centric programming. I mean, they basically focus on identifying a health problem and then giving a solution. But within the program, there are opportunities. I know that under the Rashtriya Kishore Swasth Karikram, there are a number of thematic areas. Thematic areas are in the form of a physical health, nutrition, drug addiction, mental health, and also there is a kind of a thematic area which is called as the SRH, sexual and reproductive health. But the pity is, this particular SRH intervention is given the limited attention. And there is a reason behind it. The limited attention is being given to this area because, even the teachers are not very confident in talking about SRH issues. Even the healthcare providers are not very comfortable in talking about those issues. But SRH is an integral part of this complete package of adolescent health programs. Now, if you really want a kind of comprehensive, holistic adolescent development, we really need to integrate social, emotional skills, and even the addressing gender inequality, which is so critical. It has to be incorporated, and it is not only incorporated as a lip service. It has to be delivered. So I think, to my mind, it's a high time that we need to demystify this whole adolescent development program. I mean, the health system as a whole, or it is not a health facility based approach. I think we really need to work in the community. That's why, within this RKSK program, there are systems like, peer education program, which is called as the, you work in the community, you identify, the peer educators, that means the adolescent boys and the girls, and then they conduct, meetings. Now, in order to conduct those meetings, there has to be some kind of a support system has to be there. There has to be a mentorship. So, to my mind, if we really want to take this agenda of social and emotional learning skills, which are integral to SRH, they have to be delivered. And in order to deliver all these things, I think one has to follow a simple, which is called as, ecosystem approach. Ecosystem approach means that means you also need to engage with the parents, you also need to capacitate the teachers, you also need to capacitate or maybe do an advocacy with the local leaders. Unless you create that kind of an enabling environment in the community, you will not be able to take these efforts forward. And to my understanding, I think unless social and emotional skills are integrated into the comprehensive sexuality education or broadly under the adolescent development program, we may not be able to achieve our real goal of so-called the agency of the adolescent girls, the empowerment of the adolescent girls. All these things needs to be given that much kind of attention. So that's my kind of a thought process, how we, need to take it forward. But there are challenges, and government really have to come up with by maybe engaging civil society organization, because it is not humanly possible by the government system, like that in a government system you have a one asha workers who works in the community with the 1000 population. Now you can't expect one asha workers to do everything on tuberculosis, on mch program, on immunization, and then on the top of it doing mentoring of the adolescent boys and the girls. I think we need to create a system, and that system is possible, and we must kind of engage civil society if we really want to take this adolescent development program in a holistic fashion. And similarly, I think we really need to kind of engage with the school teachers, more in a very intensive fashion, not like a lip service. So I think these are the some of those thoughts I have in mind, but I am really impressed and thrilled, the way you are, taking up this initiative. And I'm really hopeful that you'll be able to take it forward with your efforts. But thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Thank you, Ria.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kira. That was such a clear framing of how can we create an enabling environment, or as you said, how can we use a ecosystem approach, or the need to use an ecosystem approach to integrate social emotional learning into CSE and into the current programs of the government, such as the school health program and the RKSK. Consistency and collaboration across departments. You mentioned about different programs like the Adolescent Health Program, as well as the efforts by the Ministry of Women and Child Development. They are very critical in order to create a strong foundation for sustainable change. So taking away with that and moving now, we have Ms. Aarti Shukla. Aarti wears many hats, leading strategy at Development Consortium, heading Love Matters India, leading digital platform on SRHR, and founding Teen Book, which is India's first skill resource and podcast for adolescents. She's a powerful voice who beautifully bridges storytelling, design thinking, and public health communication to help young people navigate their emotions and relationships with confidence. Aarti, from your on-ground experience, what practical strategies have worked best in integrating social emotional learning into adolescent health programs, especially in community or government settings? Also, and as also we would like to know that as we think about scale, what would you recommend to sustain these approaches across diverse contexts while keeping adolescents, especially girls, voices right at the center? Over to you, Aarti.
Thank you very much, Ria. And thank you to everyone for giving me this opportunity to come and speak to you. It's wonderful to see the work that Global Girls Glow is doing in India, along with its partners, Restless Development, IP Foundation. And thank you, Shalu, Zareen, Rosa, Marceli, Sanjana, for sharing your stories. It always soars my heart to see girls speak their minds. So well done, and please keep doing that and get more and more girls to speak along with you. If we can move to the next slide. I'm very, very glad that we are mainstreaming the conversations on comprehensive sexuality education, and that social emotional learning is going to provide a stronger pathway for it. Next slide. When we think of social emotional learning and comprehensive sexuality education, so CSE was kind of way ahead compared to many other education frameworks in recognizing that that sexuality education is not about biology, but primarily it's about emotions, relationships, and social context. The UNESCO's, next slide please, the UNESCO's International Technical Guidance on Sexuality Education itself and other frameworks like IPPFs already emphasize value and attitudes, so respect, empathy, inclusion, and responsibility, skills such as communication, negotiation, decision-making, and managing emotions, and critical reflection on issues such as gender, power, culture, and rights. Now, all of these are SEL core competencies, even if they weren't labeled that way in comprehensive sexuality education. So next slide, please. So however, the specific integration of social emotional learning into comprehensive sexuality education is immensely helpful. As well, it will provide us a different entry point for comprehensive comprehensive sexuality education in education policy. Why? Because SEL is seen as a neutral life skill, mental health approach, and CSE faces resistance because of its sexuality related content. So when we now link CSE with SEL, it may help us in making it more acceptable, and especially in policy spaces, while we frame it as a part of student well-being. Next slide, please. Ministries around the world are increasingly adopting already SEL frameworks like the one with CASEL, OECD, and positioning CSE inside SEL will help us institutionalizing it something we have been struggling with comprehensive sexuality education for decades now. So rather than keeping it as a standalone or a controversial subject, it'll help mainstream it, institutionalize it. So while CSE always did include social emotional learning, it wasn't always called out so. So we're now naming SEL components, integrating it specifically. Educators can also show more how CSE builds life skills, transferable life skills, such as self-regulation, empathy, responsible decision-making, and much more. Next slide, please. We have been using these approaches in our work at Teen Book and Love Matters India over the last few years. For those who don't know what Teen Book and Love Matters are, Love Matters is India's largest sexual and reproductive health platform, providing sexual and reproductive health knowledge or comprehensive sexuality education to young people, aimed at ages 18 and above. And we use websites in English and Hindi and social media channels, as well as communities meetings to take comprehensive sexuality education to young people. Teen Book is the adolescent partner of Love Matters, which basically provides the same comprehensive sexuality education through our website, teenbook.in in English and Hindi, as well as social media platforms, podcasts, and now school-based workshops to take comprehensive sexuality education to schools as well as digitally. So what approaches have we been using? Let's have a look. Next slide, please. So at Love Matters and Teen Book, the digital platforms have been built to respond to real questions from adolescent and youth and young people. So for example, we have Auntie Ji Se Pooche on Love Matters and Ask Disha on Teen Book. So which helps with, there are two SEL competencies, self-awareness and help seeking. As one of our partners, girls were saying that one of the things that has really improved in them is that they're aware of their own needs and they can go and seek help for it. That same thing we are trying to do digitally as well. Similarly, our modules at schools also focus specifically on dilemmas that are first put forward by adolescents. So there is no approach of taking what we already have, but we build it along with adolescents. Next slide, please. Another important SEL approach that we have used at Love Matters and Teen Book is to create safe spaces. Our girls also spoke about the safe spaces they have been given access to. And what helps here? Self-reflection. When you give somebody safe space, they're able to first express what they're feeling, and then they're able to reflect without the critical noises that normally prevent us from doing this in our home settings, in community settings, in school settings. There's just simply no space for it. So at Love Matters and Teen Book, we are creating these safe spaces, both online and offline, for young people to voice their doubts, ask sensitive questions, and share their stories. On the screen, you see an image from our peer learning group where young people are able, and some of the peer learning groups that our girls also just spoke about, where young people can come and do expression as well as reflection. Online, for example, we've just developed our WhatsApp-based chatbot called Ask Love Matters, where young people can simply have a conversation based on Love Matters ideology and content, but really find it a safe space to express themselves without anybody seeing them or judging them. Next slide, please. SEL integration into CSE, or for that matter, any educational framework, but particularly CSE, becomes easier if adolescents themselves are involved in moderation, reflection, role play, sharing. For example, as Rosa shared that when she went into the community meeting, the meeting was being led by somebody who was from her own community and had the same challenges. So this really helps in integrating some of the social emotional sort of concepts that we are trying to integrate. We also saw this in our program Baat Karne Se Baat Banti Hai, where peer facilitators led SEL-based CSE sessions, and it enhanced trust, it built relational peer support, and two-way empathy. जो बात peers आप अपने peer से कह पाते हैं, especially कुछ चीजें जो हमारी सोसाइटी में शर्म से जुड़ी हुई हैं, स्टिग्मा से जुड़ी हुई हैं, वो किसी peer से कहने देने में बहुत आसानी होती है. So ये again, it's a social emotional way of reading into comprehensive sexuality education. Then next slide, please. Creating bite-sized and engaging content is also very important to ensure stickiness, especially as health programs are not normally on top of youth priorities. It's not something youth are looking out for. But stories, popular culture, folk media, and culturally relevant metaphors are helping young people develop resonance with these concepts, and along with it's easier for them to communicate them to their families. You know, if we are using very health or very scientific language or very sexually focused language, then it's hard for them. But they saw something on social media, it is a joke, it is a meme, it's a short clip. Next slide, please. Then they can easily talk about that story or talk about that cartoon that they saw, and remove the stigma and taboo around it. So all of the content on Teen Book and Love Matters is created on this principle. Next slide, please. Finally, whatever we might create, we need to use data and evidence to see what's working and what's not working, and keep that approach iterative and nimble. That's very, very important when we're talking about social and emotional learning. And here it is important to not just track the knowledge that has been developed, because all educational frameworks do that, okay, how much have you learned? But it's very important to track changes in confidence, empathy, negotiation, help-seeking behaviors. Some of the things that our girls just spoke about as to how they have made that journey, they have made that transition. And it is not just about knowing more, but doing things differently. And then sharing this data with policymakers to demonstrate how SEL and CSE can contribute to some really hard outcomes, such as school retention, reduced child marriage, and of course, improved sexual and reproductive health. So we have to do this both quantitatively and qualitatively. So for example, at Love Matters, we use digital analytics to track what young people are consuming. But at the same time, in program setting, we are collecting qualitative stories and voices of change, just like the voices of change that we heard today in the earlier part of our program. So just wrapping up, what are some of the strategies that we can use to scale and sustain SEL integrated comprehensive sexuality education? I have 4 points to share. Next slide, please. Keeping in mind, of course, that the voices of the girls and adolescent girls remain central. So next slide, please. So I think one of the most important things, and I think Dr. Kher also spoke about it, that we really need to invest in capacity and mentorship ecosystems. We really need to build a cadre of SEL CSE mentors. These could be teachers, health workers, youth leaders. Simply can't depend on Ashas to do all this. And like we said, peer educators and young people. We simply need a lot more hands on this. And here, digital resources, just like Ask Love Matters chatbot, can help us build this cadre. So a digital resource like that, if you don't know something, you can tap into the digital resource, ask your question, and then help build knowledge of the people in your network. So there's a huge need to first build this capacity and also to scale it, to expand it. Next slide. The other thing is, of course, government adoption. Nothing can really be scaled without eventually government adoption and policy alignment. And this is required for all kinds of scale efforts. So we need to advocate for inclusion of SEL-infused CSE within frameworks like NEP 2020 and other life scale frameworks and state curriculums. And the integration of SEL will also strengthen the case for CSE, which has so far been resisted by education policy makers, given the taboo and stigma around what CSE actually does. So positioning SEL CSE as essential for India's adolescent health agenda and not as an add-on. Next, using hybrid models where you use schools plus community. Next slide, please. Using hybrid models where you have schools, community programs, plus digital will be very important so that everybody can be reached out and there is a multiple layer of reach. So for example, we are doing with Project Teen Book, where a child who is reached via a school session on social emotional learning can then come back to Teen Book and explore further topics or ask questions online. This is very important because given, again, CSE remains under stigma and taboo. So there is so much that the SEL will open the gateways for us. It will open the pathways for us. But some of the topics will still need that multiple layer of reach. And this could be just like you have those digital scanners in the NCRT textbooks, read this much here, scan here, go find more stuff elsewhere. So similar approach is also needed in this SEL infused CSE. And this can help scale beyond immediate interaction that we have children with a learning module that children can then self-consume in their own space and time. Next slide, please. It will also be helpful to move beyond attendance counts, how many workshops done, how many adolescents reached, and then instead tracking whether girls feel heard, safe, and more confident in making these choices. And just like we did with the girls earlier today, and involving girls in what they feel success would look like. Like if they had SEL infused CSE, how would their lives change? And then gather community data around whether that has been made possible. Because in any case, tracking success for SEL or CSE through traditional outcome models has always been challenged. So thank you. Those are my thoughts on this subject, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much, Aarti. And I'll just make if like an announcement, if time permits, we'll be happy to take questions. So to all the participants, if you want to put your questions, you will see a Q&A section. You can type in your questions. If there's time, we'll definitely answer the questions, or we will send it to the respective panelists and we'll get back to you with the responses. But with that, Aarti, thank you so much. That was a wonderful presentation. And you said it very rightly, comprehensive sexuality education being a taboo topic because of the word sexuality and sexuality in it. I think SEL will definitely make a stronger case, underlining and focusing the emphasis on CSE to be, beyond just sex education and SRHR, and also talking about CSE more in the framework of equipping adolescents with life skills, decision making, and voice to speak for themselves. And that will definitely, as you said, would be critical for government adoption and policy alignment. The among all the other points that you said, the other point that I really loved is where you talked about using data or tracking not only what knowledge gain has been there, but what skills have been learned. So I think those were wonderful points in addition to all the points that you made. And I think at the end, we'll also be putting all these together and sharing it with key stakeholders and even our CSO partners for them to learn, scale, and integrate these models. And thank you for sharing how Love Matters India works, how Teen Book works. It's really exciting to see the work that you're doing and learn what you're doing. Thank you so much, Aarti. With that, now we'll move on to our next panelist. Next, I'd like to bring in Ms. Nikita Srivastav, Associate Director of Health and Impact at AVPN. Nikita brings a distinct combination of funder and implementer experience with over 14 years in the ecosystem, having held key roles at major donor organizations and implementing groups like the Population Foundation of India and in gender health. Her deep expertise spans women's health, rights, and strategic engagement. Nikita, from where you sit across the donor and policy ecosystem, how are adolescent health and education being prioritized in India right now? Also, what kinds of investments or approaches could help strengthen the integration of SEL within CSE so it becomes more sustainable, collaborative, and scalable? Over to you, Nikita.
Thanks, Ria. So last speaker for the session, and I request everybody's attention for the last leg of the whole session, please. Again, thanks to Ria and the entire GGG team for organizing this conversation. I'm super happy to contribute to the conversation with this fantastic group. Obviously, Dr. Kheda and Aarti, but most especially the girls who spoke before us. So, as Ria mentioned, both Ria and Pallavi have tasked me to speak about funders' perspective on CSE. So, I'll start based on my experience of working in the field, basically with AVPN and with my previous organizations, where I've been in the role of designing grants for organizations working on CSE. So, in one line, funders definitely prioritize integrated evidence-based approaches, which which could combine knowledge, life skills, and agency to improve overall adolescent health and well-being. I think Dr. Kheda very nicely mentioned, and I agree that in India and in many other Southeast Asian countries with similar context, there are existing national programs that address holistic adolescent health, and few of them definitely integrate portions of SEL at scale. Although implementation can focus more on equity and inclusion, ensuring that there is equitable access to more marginalized adolescents like girls, those out of schools, and those in rural and low resource settings. So, this is just to set up that there is already policy intention and priority which is available for this theme. The second part is what is required to make it an investable opportunity. I feel that it needs to be impact measured. It should show very clear evidence, something what Aarti spoke about towards the end of her presentation, of how CSE could lead to better health, education, and gender outcomes. So I'll speak to some of the key evidence and data pieces that have helped me brought these such grants to fruition in the past. And some of this can be taken up by the group that is here as well as later on to see how CSE fits into their own storytelling narrative. So it has been very clearly established globally, and evidence shows that CSE leads to delayed sexual debate, reduced violence, and improved communication and confidence amongst this age group. In India, especially where adolescents and a lot of Southeast Asian countries where adolescents face significant challenges like early marriages, adolescent pregnancies, and very limited access to sexual and reproductive health information, I feel CSE is essential to tackle these challenges, but also contribute to nation's overall health strategy. But it is very important that the funders that you are speaking with see CSE as that foundation for broader development outcomes, basically linking it and the outcomes directly to country level SDGs on health, education, and gender equality. The narrative that we need to build is that needs to link investing in CSE to these evidence pieces on cross-cutting outcomes, such as we can say that reducing this will reduce child marriages by up to 60%, which will definitely lead to improved health, lower gender-based violence, strengthen gender equality, and increase education and economic outcomes for any country, and obviously contributing to multiple SDGs at one go. Another key outcome area for CSE is that study shows that it links to 62% decrease in HIV infections and 49% unintended pregnancies. So a lot of big funding organizations that work to solve these issues, CSE can be pitched as a vehicle to attain the final outcome. The investment case for adolescent health and well-being report, which was recently launched by PMNCH, underscores the substantial economic benefits of investing in areas such as adolescent health, education, child marriage prevention, which are expected to yield returns on investment. So for every dollar invested, that report says, returns are estimated to range from USD 4 to USD 71, which is a huge gain on every dollar invested for a country. Investing in CSE in terms of health benefits and very directly linking to the SRHR work that Dr. Kheda mentioned could avert 1 million unintended pregnancies and unsafe abortions annually globally. And this would lead health systems to save up to 60 USD for every dollar that is invested. So all the narratives that I am speaking to, you see that we see ROI for all the monies that are invested into adolescent health and development. Similarly, integrating life skills based CSE in school curriculum can also raise attendance by 10 to 15% and lower dropout rates. So a lot of funders who are designing strategies around these challenges can basically again link it with CSE to make their broader grant designs. The second part of the whole investable opportunity narrative is that to link CSE with long-term economic gains. So a study shows that investment in adolescents and specifically through CSE curriculum across various sectors is projected to yield returns of approximately 10x per annum. So if you are investing 1 rupee right now, you will get 10 rupee at the end of the year, enhancing GDP of a country tenfold, highlighting the crucial role of adolescence in shaping economic and social future of a country, which is a narrative that you will see in the policy design that I spoke about earlier. So to summarize, Ria, I think it is imperative to tell the story by adolescents who have joined us today, but also link it to the overall gains from investing in CSE and SEL at large, linking this to broader economical, health, and education benefits, not only speaking about what it is doing at a smaller community level, but the long term impact stories, which can get more funding. And these basically can be building blocks to the economies in lower and middle income countries. I think for now, that is all from my side. But thanks again to GGG team for organizing this and allowing us, this group, to meet, especially with this lovely youth leaders that I have met today. Thank you, and back to you, Ria.
Thank you so much, Nikita. And thank you so much for bringing in the conversation of how to look at comprehensive sexuality more holistically. And when I say holistically, more in terms of economic outcomes. So from a micro level, what you said, as we've been focusing on stories, strategies to look at it at a more macro level and more in terms of investments or returns in investment. And thank you for sharing the data, which also forms a very critical part of our uh, tactics or our strategies and our conversations with the key decision makers. So reiterating and highlighting two of your points that I really loved, and thank you for bringing it on the table, is to talk about on the return of investments. So looking at comprehensive sexuality, not only in terms of how much knowledge has been gained or what life skills have been gained by the adolescents and young people, but more in terms of what long-term outcomes does it result in terms of economic outcomes for a country, where it helps to also achieve larger goals like the SDG, or support other health outcomes or programs like decreasing unintended pregnancies, unsafe abortions, or helping in continuing education of adolescents, especially girls and those who are in low resource settings. Also decreasing indicators which are a priority, like the maternal mortality and other health outcomes. And like you said, CSE with long-term gains can lead to 10 times more return per annum. That's a powerful data to take with us and to take it ahead. So thank you so much, Nikita, for your insights. These have been really helpful. And now finally, I'll move on, and I am actually very thrilled to bring in my colleague, Ms. Pallavi Gehlot, who is the Program Officer, Asia at Global Girls Glow. Pallavi works closely with our partners across Asia to create safe, empowering spaces where girls can build self-awareness, empathy, and leadership. Her work sits right at the intersection of SEL and SRHR. Before joining Global Girls Glow, she worked passionately in the fields of alternative education, social emotional learning, and SRHR, bringing rich experience from both education and development spaces. So, Pallavi, given that what we have heard and from your program experiences, what are 2 or 3 key strategies for governments and partners to meaningfully integrate SEL and CSE into schools and adolescent health frameworks? And also, how do you think can research and evidence help ensure these approaches are both scalable and culturally rooted? Over to you, Pallavi.
Thanks so much, Ria. Wow, that was a big introduction. Okay. I think I would like to build on the rich discussion that we have had with this panel so far, and I would like to share how we at Global Girls Glow see social emotional learning, or SEL. We really see it as the differentiator, as the bridge that really makes comprehensive sexuality education meaningful as well as a sustainable approach. Our theory of change centers on building voice, agency, and power amongst girls and the participants that we work with, the power within the power to act and the power with others. And the heart of the transformation for us lies in social emotional learning. So, across whatever changes, impact we see, our foundation really is social emotional learning because, as Aarti already pointed out, it's not just about emotions, it is really about the how, the process that helps adolescent girls make safe, informed choices and confident decisions for themselves because all of them are really situated in complex social realities and marginalized realities which are very difficult to navigate through. In India, we very often see that comprehensive sexuality education is reduced to information on biology, about reproduction, or hygiene. But we understand that information alone doesn't shift mindsets or attitudes or behaviors. We have seen from our work that SEL really makes all of that information usable, and it is made usable by building communication, negotiation, confidence, the skills that SEL brings along with it. And that is why, and that is how comprehensive sexuality education becomes really internalized and usable in the actual complex realities of the participants. And when we talk about integrating SEL, and I think most of the speakers before me, Dr. Kera, Nikita, Aarti, all of them have already pointed out that we are not really talking about adding more content or adding more curriculum. What we are really trying to focus on is transforming how the content is really shared and experienced by the participants who are part of these programs. Um, at Glow, we really take impact seriously. So we have a small but very mighty MEL, monitoring, evaluation, and learning team that works tirelessly and intentionally to understand what is changing in the girls that we work with. And Nikita, you rightly pointed out impact measurement with SEL is difficult, but we continue to do so. And even with and we've seen the impacts very clearly through our glow clubs globally. We have seen that girls have shown increase in confidence of around 21%, as well as with leadership with the first year as they come into programming, and then another 12% growth by the end of the third year with consistent engagement alongside higher school retention rate. So we've been trying to really make this as a nuanced programming, which is long term, sustainable, and also measurable. Regarding the aspect where you mentioned about Ria, what are the key strategies from the recommendations of the discussion so far and from our work at Global Girls Glow? I think it's really important to embed social emotional learning and infuse it into the CSE quotient, comprehensive sexuality education, and into the existing frameworks in the country, because India already has adolescent health programs and education programs like school health program, RKSK. And what we see or understand what's missing again is the how to translate all the technical information which is passed down to the participants into really internalizing and acting on what they learn. And at Glow, what the missing link is what we are trying to focus on. In our Glow clubs, girls first spend time in SEL based session. So they are really building trust, they are building awareness, self-awareness, social awareness, and emotional safety through the experiential learning strategy that we have for our implementation. Mentors are women from their own communities who practice social emotional learning rooted facilitation. The facilitation is based in active listening instead of, plain prescriptory lecture style. It's rather more active listening. They are more there's a lot of guidance, and there's avoidance of prescribing and instructing directly, which we usually see in the other spaces that girls are in, like at school or sometimes at homes as well. I would take the liberty of saying that. And only once that they have this trust and confidence built, girls transition into the healthy glow phase of our Glow Club programming, where they then learn about puberty, consent, relationships, reproductive health in a very interactive and deeply contextualized way. And from our monitoring data, we have seen tangible shifts in the pre and post understanding of the girls. We have seen a rise in around 22% understanding of healthy boundaries in our girls. We have seen a rise in around 19% rise in decision making. We have seen 25% rise in better understanding of puberty and emotional change, which our participant Rosa also shared in her journey. So it reflects that change and that shift that the girls experience while being in clubs. So as we think about national integration, this layering can really help become the pedagogical foundation for SEL, for CSE. So SEL can be the pedagogical foundation for CSE, where emphasizing connection with content, prioritizing dialogue over instruction, and reflection alongside knowledge would be really fruitful strategy to embed. And I would like to share one of the small sharings that we have from our Glow Club participants from Odisha, similar to what Rosa highlighted earlier. She says that in school, the reproduction chapter is always skipped. There's silence in class and at home. But in Glow Clubs, when we ask questions, we understand. We also have the opportunity to come back the next week when we meet in our club session with more questions. And that's what happens when SEL is the foundation to approach CSE. It turns knowledge and content into connection and confidence. Secondly, the second strategy that I would like to highlight is strengthening capacity building through community rooted mentorship. Dr. Ajay as well pointed this out, and very rightly. We really need to invest in building capacity of the people who are directly involved in facilitating SEL within CSE. And in our programming model, our mentors are truly the backbone of our cell-infused CSE approach. They are trusted women from same or similar communities as the girls, and that is what really makes all the difference. They are trained in SEL facilitation. They bring a lot of empathy, storytelling, which is context based, creative tools like Girl Talk Box discussion. This is a small but again, like very impactful session in our curriculum that we have. There is every time that the girls come in and meet, they have 10 to 15 minutes to use this time to anonymously put questions. It could be about anything on the face of the earth or universe, what they can think about and what questions they may have. And if they can't ask those questions outside, they have the space to really use the Girl Talk Box to ask those questions, which is a very interesting part of our curriculum. This is also interesting because girls lead these discussions. So instead of just being asking the questions, there's a healthy discussions where some of the girls who are part of the programming actually lead discussions, of course, guided by the mentors themselves. And this turns a lot of taboo topics into shared learning, natural moments of learning for the girls. Think regarding this part, I would also want to plug in my own personal experience. I've had a very interesting trajectory with GGG. I've also worked closely as a partnership coordinator previously, implementing Glow Clubs on the ground. And I've seen the transformations of this community rooted mentorship in girls firsthand. I remember from my time when we would really, go and observe some of the sessions, the girls would be whispering about menstruation. They would be shy. They would be so hesitant. Their body language would be really close, their shoulders curled down. But months later, I've seen the same girls leading gallery walks, confidently explaining anatomy and reproductive health concepts to others. So much so that they are engaging with boys and other community members in open dialogue about reproductive health concepts. So these are the same girls who once struggled to name parts of their own body, now leading conversations about them with absolute clarity and confidence. What it also transforms is that the health seeking behavior of the girls and the ripple effects in their families. So, when I say that this really makes a difference, SEL really is the differentiator. I absolutely believe in it because I have seen the model and how it impacts the girls so deeply. Um, Moving forward, I think when we think of the national integration, this model really offers a clear pathway. It informs how we can potentially train school teachers, peer educators, and ASHAs under existing government programs with this approach to avoid one-way transfer of information to then culling it into a dialogue where there is a lot of understanding and confidence being built in girls. And lastly, I think it would be really wonderful to look at, um, you know, evidence-based adaptations to programming or research-informed loop learnings. Our Healthy Glow curriculum, when it was curated, it was reviewed internationally with 9 adolescent health programs and co-developed with local partners from across the world, ensuring that we have cultural fit and resonance. And each module was piloted, tested, and then refined for further contextual fit. And as Adrian mentioned early on, we worked with across 1,700 girls globally, including India, and our data shows over 20% gains in reproductive health knowledge, but equally strong growth in SEL competencies like social awareness, self-awareness, as well as responsible decision making. And Indian research also echoes this. The UNESCO UNFPA South Asia review identified SEL as the key pedagogical lever to make CSE gender responsive as well as resilient. NCRT 2023 study finds out that adolescents with strong SEL skills attend school more regularly. They have lower anxiety levels with all the crazy social media that's I'm sure going very high. And it also creates a proactive approach amongst adolescents to seek health services. So, to sustain and scale this impact, we need research to policy learning loops and systems where academic data and girl led feedback continuously shapes and evolves how programs are then being built. So, it could be, ensuring that national programs are perhaps adaptive rather than static to young people's realities. Finally, I think SEL, when it is infused in sexuality education, girls don't just know their rights, they find their voice to claim it. Because when education touches both the heart and the mind, it doesn't just inform, it really transforms. And that is what we are aiming at. Thank you, Ria. Thank you for listening to me, everyone.
Thank you so much, Pallavi. And I think you tied everything together so beautifully. You connected the dots between evidence, policy, and the lived experiences of girls, exactly what's needed to take SEL and plus CSE to make it truly transformative. So, thank you so much. Um, Given the time, I think we won't be able to take Q&A, but with this, uh, I think we have come to an end. And as we come to the close, I want to extend a heartfelt thank you to our powerful panelists, Dr. Ajay Khera, Aarti Shukla, Ms. Nikita Srivastav, and Pallavi Gehlot, for such rich and grounded insights. A few reflections on what stood out for me today. So, firstly, building an ecosystem in order to enable social emotional learning plus comprehensive sexuality integrated programs, and where we talk about building an ecosystem, it is building or capacitating key stakeholders such as teachers, parents, educators, mentors, and community leaders on the components of social emotional learning and comprehensive sexuality education to create an overall enabling environment. Second, integrating social emotional learning will help underscore comprehensive sexuality education beyond just sexual reproductive health and rights and sex education to, a tool to equip young people and adolescents with the knowledge and skills to take decisions about their body and their lives, and which will help greater buy-in by government and policy setups. Thirdly, comprehensive sexuality education should not be taught in isolation, and especially given the young people, the population of young people in India, we being the country with the highest population of young people, it's important to talk of about comprehensive sexuality education more in terms of return on investments, and look at it not in isolation uh, but through lens of different other economic as well as social outcomes. And to end, it's very important that we continue uh, evidence-based learning. So it should not be, one specific strategy or one specific approach. Today we had panelists who shared different approaches that work, whether it be, using adolescent-led initiatives, or using content that is more culturally accepted and content that is acceptable and more popular among young people, to using hybrid modules or modes where we are not only talking about CSC through schools or community setups, but also digitally, and constantly improving the approach and the modules as time sees and the landscape changes. So therefore, using evidence to update and upgrade uh, the uh, uh, the topics and the topics basically that we cover within SEL as well as comprehensive sexuality education. So with that, I would just say that today's conversation reaffirmed uh, one simple but powerful truth, that is, social emotional learning isn't an add-on, but it is the foundation. And with that, on behalf of Global Girls Club, I want to thank our speakers, our inspiring girls from the first panel, and all of you in the audience for your energy, your reflections, and your thoughtful questions. And when we combine SEL with CSC, we give adolescents not just information, but understanding, not just knowledge, but confidence. So thank you for being part of this dialogue and for everything you do to make this vision real. We'll be sharing the key takeaways and next steps from the summit soon. Until then, take care and keep the conversation going for every girl everywhere. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you and bye-bye.
Thanks, Aarti. Thank you all for also responding to the question. Appreciate that in the chat. All the best for your next event. Bye. See you there. See you there.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone.